Here's the video. This is on the on-ramp northbound 225. Couldn't see the crowd from here. You can't see over the road. And because of the turn, you can't see around the road.
46 Henry.
46 Henry, go ahead.
Is it this sign? You'll see this sign in future pictures, but this about right here, we have represented in another photo I'll show you. So that's that sign right up there by the yellow arrow, okay? So that's the Jeep with its lights on in that lane. The motorbike that had been trying to block the on-ramp to 225 ends up giving chase to the Jeep after the Jeep drives around her and gets onto the highway. That's the motorbike back there. And then there's an F-150 truck that's going to play a pretty important role here. That's the truck right there. So you can see where all those people are. And then you see this one line broken off from the rest of these people here. So this is what, because we don't have video of what happens. Let me back up a little bit here. You can see there are some people in the road here. I don't know what they're doing in terms of movements, whether they're getting off the road, whether they're being aggressive to the vehicle. I don't know that. All we have are the statements of the witnesses, and the witnesses that we have, one is a passenger from the Jeep. And I want to make this clear. In no way has that person come forward to be interviewed by us. This was based off of that Facebook something video that they put on, their personal statement, whatever. But this is the quote. "We then avoided any pedestrians in the roadway and continued onto the freeway." That's coming off of that on-ramp. There was no police barricade that stopped us. Upon getting onto the on-ramp, we did notice there was Black Lives Matter protesters on both sides of the on-ramp. Once we did get on the freeway, off the on-ramp, we did notice that there was additional protesters that were also on the roadway, but on both sides of it. So this is where we're at. We had a distance measured for these. I think it's more of an approximation because I don't think we had the ability to be precise, but we're close. So the Jeep in that photo is about 280 feet south of the F-150. The Jeep is about 440 feet south of that first line of, I guess we can call them the wall of moms. I don't know if that's accurate or not. The F-150 is about 160 feet south of the protesters. That'll be important later when we talk about things like ability to stop and what woulda, coulda happened there. The Jeep passenger goes on to say these protesters then immediately started throwing projectiles at the Jeep that they were in, as well as trying to get in front of the vehicle with bats to damage the vehicle. We then avoided any pedestrian that tried to get in front of the Jeep, in which case a white pickup truck then began driving right next to us. The white pickup truck then intentionally crashed into us. Once this white pickup truck did crash into us, a man with a bat then approached the vehicle and began swinging at the vehicle. We then proceeded to speed off to avoid any potential damage to ourselves and the vehicle. Again, that's that Facebook posty message. Yeah, that's not from an interview he gave us. He's denied giving us an interview. That's his right to do it, but I'm telling you, we asked. This is what we're going to talk about at this point here. I don't have video of any of these things happening to say that they didn't happen. What I also don't have is video of the collision. We have video of the sound of the collision and everything after, and I'll show you that. So this is the direction of travel that we're pretty confident he must have taken. This white truck was sitting here. Now, this white truck is a guy who originally is confronted when he's trying to get on northbound I-225, and the protesters, rush him, and he says, "Well, hang on. I'm supportive of the protest." Maybe he has friends in the protest. I can't remember, Tom. But he says, "I'm here to try to help." So his role, as he's in this lane right here, is to act as security for the protest. So the Jeep then drives around, doesn't hit any of these people, drives around through them to get by after, according to the passenger, people were attacking their vehicle as they drove by. Then this truck, you'll see, makes a different kind of movement. We have no video of that. Based on the EDR data that is in the F-150 and that is in the Jeep, we know certain things took place. We also have photographs and a Faro scanner. Speed limit on this stretch of road is 65 miles per hour. 5 seconds prior to the collision between the F-150 and the Jeep, the F-150 was going a mere 6 miles per hour. right? And they talk about the slope and the downhill and all this other stuff. That's important. 5 seconds prior to the collision, the Jeep was going 20 miles an hour under the speed limit, 45 miles per hour. And it appears to be coasting, not accelerating at that point. Immediately prior to the collision, at 0.5 seconds, the F-150 begins to depress the accelerator. It's at 100%, can't go more than 100%. And the steering is increased to 415.5 degrees, hard crank to the right. At time zero, the steering's been turned 426.3 degrees to the right, and the accelerator's at 100%. The speed's now increased to 8.2 miles per hour. Same period of time we're talking about. The Jeep has accelerated to a high of 47 miles an hour up to about 1.2 seconds prior and stays at that speed for about 0.6 seconds. At 0.6 seconds, it drops off. At 0.7 seconds, the brakes are pressed hard enough that the ABS locks up on it. At impact with this truck that drives into the Jeep, and I want to make that clear, there had been initial media reports that this Jeep had smashed into this truck. That is not how it went down. This truck, by the driver's words and conduct, deliberately drove his truck into that Jeep. 40 miles per hour is as fast as the Jeep was going at the time of impact. Now, what we're going to see here is the closest thing we have to a video that can tell us what took place at the time of the collision, and it's only sound. You'll hear that the collision happens, and then you'll start to see the reaction from people. That's the closest thing we have to video of that collision. We don't have anything from 9 News. We don't have anything from a drone. We don't have anything from cell phones other than this clip right here. The collision was 3,000 feet from Alameda, where this Jeep had gotten onto the on-ramp. It would have taken, and this is important because we talked about the speeds that they were traveling, it would have taken about 105 feet to brake and stop at 47 miles per hour. That's important because the collision, he's more than 150 feet away from the line of protesters. After the collision, this is that truck. We saw that on the ground video of that. This is the truck. This is the Jeep as they begin to move forward northbound onto this. And you can see now people are starting to move out of the way. We have another video, and this is, I think this is the one on the opposite side of the street that you can see the Jeep drive through it here. Let's see. Well, I guess only if George knows how to do the technology. Watch over here on the left. So they actually end up and surrounding the truck and treat the truck like it's part of this thing too. They don't know the role that this guy is playing. So they rushed the truck. They wanted to rush the Jeep, but the Jeep kept going. They rushed the truck, and the truck driver can be seen saying, whoa, 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 no, I'm one of y'all. I'm here to help try to protect this thing. And then they get off of the truck. Crowd begins to clear a path, and I'll show you some stills, and then we'll show the video of how it happened. But you can see here they start to get off of the road, and that there's almost nobody on northbound 225 as the Jeep starts to drive through where the crowd had been. But you will see, and you can sort of tell in the stills, there are people who rush into the street to try to throw things at the Jeep. And the Jeep navigates either around them or just keeps going. This is, and I told you I'd make passing reference, and I want to remind people that even though we have accused this guy of certain crimes, he is presumed innocent and will remain that way until he's convicted, unless he's convicted in a court of law. But this is our alleged shooter right here. There's the Jeep. You'll see some of these people. These aren't people that are just standing there helpless. These are people who rushed to the Jeep to confront it. More views of the different lanes of traffic they're being flooded. Here's that video. And watch over here on the left. That's after the sound of the collision. the Jeep is ultimately going to get off on 6th Avenue and make contact with the very first police officers it can encounter. And mercifully for these guys, it's right off of that off-ramp. It's right there. This is again our alleged shooter firing at the Jeep after it had passed. Here's another view. I'm trying to give you what video we had to try to piece this thing together.
I told you! I told you! Get the license plate! That's what the Aurora Police Department did! That's what they did!
That voice, you'll recognize that voice from one of the earlier videos on the westbound Alameda part as he's giving directions to cars. This guy has a lot of video and a lot of running narrative. And one clip I didn't put in here is early on as they are coming onto northbound I-225. He can be heard walking behind, looking and seeing that there isn't any protection behind them from vehicles getting onto the highway. And he says, this isn't good. This isn't good. We need, I can't remember the words he used, but some kind of line or something like that. We need protection. This isn't good. And that's what he's making reference to here. When that car comes through, it's almost like, I told you so. I told you that this was an issue. So we had some accident analysis done. You've seen some of it already. An estimate was made based on the distance of the road markings and the vehicle travel over a period of time, and we came up with these. The first 40 feet that we see as the Jeep starts to go into this, it's traveling at about 29 miles per hour. This is all post-collision. And you can see the pictures here. As you know from the video, these are all people who came out to confront the Jeep. That second 40 feet, it's now increased its speed to about 40 miles per hour. And in that final 40 feet, as it has cleared by the folks, it gets up to about 51 miles per hour. Through the entire distance, and you saw the video of it, this Jeep really stays in the center lanes of the highway here. I want to tell you why that's important. In trying to assess what the mindset, and this matters when we talk about potential charges, the mindset of the driver, seeing that post-collision conduct, and he has the ability, in my opinion, to swerve left, swerve right, do a whole bunch of things that would indicate some sort of intent or maliciousness on his part in trying to hurt someone. He does exactly the opposite. It seems to me, based on that video, what I have seen there is that he avoids people wherever possible and just tries to get out of there. That's what it looks like. Here's another video right after, and by the way, the Jeep is not the only car that does this in that question, but there were a ton of cars afterwards that got onto northbound 225 right after the Jeep, and they were confronted by the protesters, and it was in some of these images, you may have caught people holding either bats or umbrellas. There were a couple images that I didn't put up here, some stills that we took where there was a woman who was carrying a sidearm. This was a group that came prepared, it seems to me, to do more than to just protest, but they were prepared for something else. And you start to see it showing up here in these post-Jeep cars. This is another video that we had. This is just right after the collision. That's right after, isn't it, Tom? And this is a car that is just driving along, doesn't know what's going on either, seconds later.
Okay, so slow. Hey, back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Please, please.
cars is these are folks too that are giving directions to people to do, no joke, turn around and head back down the wrong way down northbound I-225. These cars that you can sort, I'm sorry, we started, you can see there's confusion. They don't know if they should go down that way because cars are still coming, or if they should just sit there. And I'm sorry I started over, but you'll see some cars around here in this weird posture trying to turn around.
You don't have to run into people. I have kids.
Okay, so slow.
You have kids. You don't have to run into hospitals.
Hey, back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up for a minute. Back up for a minute, please.
Hey, let's go. Hey, let's go.
Turn around! Turn around! Hey, wait. On that side of the road. That way. That way. That way. Turn around. Go that way.
Come on.
Go that way.
Vicky, are you trying to get my attention? He's got kids in the car, and I can't remember where he was getting his kids to. Tom, where did he say? He was trying to get his kids to the hospital. That was the guy they threw the bike in front of and confronted. Some of those other cars, you can tell they're hesitant to follow these instructions because of the chaos that's there. They're being told to drive back down the road where they just saw another car come up. Other people are giving different directions. Just pull over, just stop. It's chaotic on this highway. Oh, sorry. This is an Aurora police officer who talked to the Jeep driver. There's also some body cam of the Jeep driver statements, pretty consistent with this. Said he was on the way to the airport to drop off his friend. We saw the passenger statements already. At some point, he said his vehicle began to be surrounded by protesters on I-225. He said they were throwing rocks at his car, and because of this, he tried driving northbound on I-25 near East Alameda Avenue to get away. At some point, he said he collided with a white truck, said he driving because the protesters were trying to attack his vehicle. When he got off the 6th Avenue exit, he contacted police. He did immediately. We have video of that. I think you'll see that. I confirmed with dispatch that the driver of the truck never called the police after the collision. Officer James Snap interviewed the driver of the motorbike. The motorbike said that she was participating in the protest and assisting protesters trying to block traffic from northbound I-225 from Alameda. She said while blocking the road, she observed the blue Jeep jump over the curb, drive onto the sidewalk and the median, and then onto northbound I-225 on the ramp. She said that the Jeep struck another vehicle and nearly hit numerous people. She chased the Jeep on her motorcycle and said she was very concerned because she had family in the protest. This is the northbound, I think, on-ramp, but this is, Tom, what's this one? Is that the, before they go on to the interstate, and then she comes around and tries to block, that's right. So this is, I think, the southbound off-ramp from southbound, she's on the southbound off-ramp from 225. She's gonna come down, curve left, and try to go over here to set up and block them from getting onto the northbound thing. This is her in that blown up image that we have. That's another picture of her that we took from video. This is that right off of the 6th Avenue exit. There's our blue Jeep that pulls over immediately to contact the Aurora police. There's our motorbike person right there. There's the motorbike person right there. I wonder if I have video of this. Nope. Here's a statement from Officer Mullins from Aurora. Vehicle pulled up behind us. 2 male occupants exited when they were advised that they were on I-220. Oh, they advised they were on I-225 when people had begun hitting their vehicle with guitars. I actually think there was a guitar that was actually used to hit the Jeep. The driver then advised that he was hit by a white lifted truck when he was attempting to leave the area. As he was attempting to leave, he stated a motorcyclist began driving erratically after him. Actually, this might be that video clip.
Sorry.
You need to take a second too. What just happened?
There's like 1,000 people in front of me.
Okay. Take a second. I'm not going to have you sitting here yelling at everybody. Take a breath. Sir, you're with him. You're going to step over here with me. My partner's going to stand here.
I don't know what just happened to the video, so sorry. I think it's them, not on my end. I mean, he's going to come to the end of this and say, and I told you all that. Tell you this, we just don't feel like we have enough to charge the Jeep driver with anything since he felt his life was threatened. Now, separately, this person carrying a gun, protester carrying a gun, here is already making the case against Sam with his words right here. Why else would you bring a gun to a protest other than to do something other than protest? He's already made up his mind. Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. If the drivers had been black, if they'd been female, if they'd been black female, would he be treating this the same way? Doubt it. I have the same question you do, Carol.
Hey Coloradans, your local Alpine Buick GMC dealer has moved, but not too far away. So stop by and check out the new showroom. And as we celebrate our 15th anniversary, we've got a sale to match your budget. Click now to find your new Alpine Buick GMC.
The Fox live stream is still working? Okay. Mm. Oh, I want to cry. It's just what I needed. Mm. Oh my God. I'm sorry, you guys. Yep, it's all made up crap. You are correct. Yep, I went to the link you posted. I've got to get through this ad though. Ugh.
Way. And that's which the public had access to, used for passage persons, vehicles, whether the obstruction arose from their access.
Sorry, take a minute. Gatorade's at it. It's hard. I can't copy links from this window easily.
Look at the pictures in the video. Just about everybody, not a regular person driving a car, is arguably in violation of this law. That includes the motorbike driver. That includes every single person you saw standing on that highway.
Yep, I do remember when he wasted millions of our dollars fruitlessly pursuing capital punishment for the Aurora shooter just so he could then run for governor.
There is no justice for any individual exception to obstructing.
I appreciate you. No, thank you. I appreciate the help I do.
This up is twofold. One, at this point, I've made the decision that there isn't, other than people already charged in this case, I am not going to be pursuing.
It's legal to carry a gun. It's your right, unless you're going to a protest, in which case you have to wonder why you might be carrying a gun, because then it's your rights will be exercising your rights will be used against you. Because if we can't get you for exercising your First Amendment rights by protesting, then we're going to get you for using your First Amendment rights by carrying a gun.
Be afraid to approach us with the evidence that they have, or they're signing themselves up for some sort of criminal charge. That is not going to happen here.
Next, they'll be saying, women, you ought to be real excited. We've been holding this against you for years when you open your mouth. Now we're doing it to white men too. Yeah, equality.
To do that, I'm going to do
to which I can only say, that's literally not the point.
It's a third-class misdemeanor. What that means is a conviction for it is a potential $750 fine and up to 6 months in the county jail. The statute of limitations is 18 months, and that's important. Because the decision that I make here today, I'm willing to be bound by it to encourage people to come forward with any evidence that they have. But I will tell you, whether it's me or whoever my successor is, if something like this were to happen again with those same people, they would not be bound to not pursue this particular event and these charges.
If they do it again,
I will bind myself for now for the purposes of trying.
You can remind me and hold me to it, just like Lindsey Graham.
In terms of motorbike, they fit into that too. There is no lawful authority to block an on-ramp to any highway in the state of Colorado because you just have a good reason for it. That's not how it works. Law enforcement could have, should have, would have been involved in this, but they weren't told about it. It looks to me, based on the things you've seen, that Aurora scrambled to try to figure out the best way possible once this thing unfolded to protect the protesters. But this one piece, this Alameda to northbound I-225 was the one big hole.
Those people.
Talk about the F-150.
The moms who were trying to keep people safe on their very first night out. The moms who learned firsthand how dangerous Aurora actually is for people who would like to see Black people live safely.
It was not accidental. It wasn't reckless. It was on purpose. It was intentional. I will tell you that I do not intend to pursue charges against that F-150 driver at this time.
Good.
And I just tell you that my sense of it is, given his vantage point, the role that he believed he was playing.
Yeah, y'all better not come for Sebastian.
I think that a jury could pretty much find that this guy thought he was doing something to protect other people. And so at this point, I'm not going to pursue charges on that particular driver for the conduct based on that evidence that we have. Again,
but
if evidence comes forward, I might revisit that, but this is the Jeep. That's the one that everybody in the community's been talking about. What about this Jeep? Now, to some extent, we're way behind social media and mainstream media on this. I've seen even in editorials from the Denver Post the statement that surely there must be charges that can be found against this Jeep driver. That was before we even completed our investigation. On social media, as you know, if you've looked at it, it's more extreme than that. So I want to go through all the charges that we could think of that you might argue could have fit here. First is attempted first-degree murder. That's what attempt murder 1 means. That is a second-class felony.
Well,
there are only 6 in the state of Colorado. First class, as you can imagine, is
attempted belies intent. You can't prove that they intended to kill anybody, is what you're about to say, that he was scared.
And so for someone to be accused of and ultimately convicted of first-degree murder, I got to prove that they acted after deliberation
No.
with the intent.
Well, Greenwood Village loves him, and so does Cherry Hills Village. So
I don't see that here. I don't have that evidence here.
concur.
There's nothing that we've
but-
heard in terms of objective statements. There's nothing I've seen in terms of pictures.
First degree murder is really, 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 really hard to prosecute because you got to prove and have evidence that they planned it, like the Unabomber with the manifesto and purchases weeks in advance, literal receipts. None of us ever thought.
They had to make the decision to act, but only after the exercise of reflection and judgment.
So congratulations on going to law school and understanding that criminal
It has
statute.
to be their conscious objective to try to kill someone. I don't see it in the evidence that we have. Now,
Great.
there's a class below that called attempted second-degree murder.
That's one piece of good news. I'll take it.
Nobody was injured during this. Nobody was struck by any vehicle that I'm aware of. There were no complaints of injuries related to the Jeep, either the collision by the F-150, and you heard the officer ask the passenger, do you need medical attention? I don't know of a single person other than those people shot by the individual that we filed a case against who were injured during this protest. Attempted second-degree murder is a third-class felony that's punishable by 10 to 32 years in the Department of Corrections. But it has certain requirements too. It requires that a person acts knowingly in engaging in that conduct. They have to take a substantial step towards causing the death of another person. And again, with the evidence that we have right now and the information that we have, I don't see it. I don't see it. And even if you could squint real hard and say, I think I can make a case for it, this isn't a winner in front of a jury, and I've only been doing this 26 years. This is not something I could prove.
It sounds like you just finished your 6th year of law school,
Not at this
actually.
The knowing of the
Yeah, people go to college for
respect to
7
conduct or circumstances.
Not because they're bad at it.
Second-degree murder. He's got to be aware that his conduct.
The ones who go for a longer time are taking it bit by bit.
That he's going to kill.
I'm trying to imply that he's bad at the law.
Keep going down the list, and there's another potential charge, and that would be the attempted reckless manslaughter. That is a 5th-class felony. It is 1 to 3 years in the Department of Corrections, but is also probation eligible. It is not like the attempted murder charges that you are going to go to prison. It's a probation eligible 1 to 3 year charge. It requires that a person has to have the intent, that's for the attempted part, to commit the reckless manslaughter. And they have to engage in conduct that is strongly corroborative of that. In reviewing what I've presented to you here, it is difficult for me to conclude that there is evidence strongly corroborative of this person's willingness to engage in behavior that would lead to the death of another person. Now, because we're missing that video stuff in advance, we have some of those pictures. Some of the things I have to rationalize is if this guy wants to run into people.
Rationalize. Did he just say rationalize?
To do it way before. If this guy is indifferent to running into people, he had plenty of opportunity to demonstrate that indifference before the collision. After the collision, it appears to me, based on the video and the pictures that we have, it's the opposite. This guy has plenty of opportunity to not care where he is on the road. Instead, given the circumstances, he exhibits, in my opinion, care to not strike another person. Reckless endangerment is another step down. That is a 3rd-class misdemeanor. It is punishable by 6 months in the county jail. It's just like obstructing a highway. $750 fine, of course, 18-month statute of limitations on that. A person unlawfully and recklessly engages in conduct which created a substantial risk of serious bodily injury to another person.
The difference between me and everybody else white. White people are watching this right now, hoping that the system will finally work. I'm watching this right now, looking for reasons to go protest.
The distance that he travels to get the off-road stuff that he does to get around the bike, he was under no legal obligation to stop there, and it seems to me he engaged in the safest possible behavior to continue his trip down the on-ramp. I'm not telling you everybody would have made the same decision. What I'm telling you is the decision he made was not a criminal one.
And what I'm telling you is that you would have criminalized this if it was a black man.
Creating a substantial risk of death to anyone else. The rest of that trip, this is the reason we sent the Aurora police officer out, was to try
And
to gauge
if
when does he
a black man had been holding a gun and shot at,
coming upon. And you
he'd
can see
be
the
dead.
cars that came behind him too.
There'd be no
They didn't have
trial.
any idea either. And that
Yep.
was after the collision, after the gunshots. He continues on, and at some point he is struck by this truck. And now, and again, because, and you should know this, I've made efforts to interview this guy. I made personal outreach to his attorney to interview this guy. And they exercised their right to not talk to the district attorney. But based on what we see here, once he's struck by the truck, it seems to me the question that has to be asked when you're gauging recklessness after that fact is, what were the alternatives? And does it make sense to ask someone who's struck by the passenger statements?
Does it make sense to take their Facebook post but no one else's?
Do you just stop and see what happens in this environment? Or do you try to press on at 29 miles an hour with a wheel coming off and avoid everybody else that remains on the road, even the ones that run out to try to get you? And it looks to me like that is what was attempted here. A person acts recklessly when he consciously disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk. You might take a snippet in time and say, what about here or what about there? But it seems to me this guy's conscious efforts, demonstrated efforts to not strike another person cuts against that, at least given the evidence that we have now. Reckless driving is, again, another step down. Now we've left the misdemeanor world. We're now in traffic offense world, where I think the maximum punishment is 90 days jail, 8 points on your license, and a $300 fine. Similar analysis in terms of the recklessness piece you can see there, except this one goes in reckless endangerment and reckless manslaughter don't use this precise language, a wanton or willful disregard for the safety of persons and property. I don't think I can make a successful case for willful and wanton disregard. Careless driving is kind of the bottom rung of this thing. That is also a traffic offense, but it is a 4-point violation instead of an 8-point violation. It is not a major traffic offense the way reckless is. The reason that matters is 3 major traffic offenses in a 7-year period, your license gets suspended. That's not true about careless driving.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to the budget meetings, but they're increasing the number of beat cops and shuffling around. We're going to have more meter maids, so you're going to be paying all kinds of tickets to make up the city's budget shortfall. It's going to be worse in Arapahoe County than it is here. We ain't even talked about their budget yet because Arapahoe County.
It doesn't just become a free-for-all, and cars can go do whatever they want to do. So the fact that they were an attendant circumstance, this was something the Jeep driver had to take into consideration. But given all of the other factors and the evidence that we have, I don't think I win this charge either. There was potential for leaving the scene of the accident, but I've highlighted the important language here. I mean, clearly he leaves the scene of the accident. That white truck slams into him. Failed to immediately stop the vehicle at the scene of the location or as close thereto as possible. Now, without interviewing this guy, best guess is truck slams into you after stating that your car had been attacked by these other protesters on the road as they approached. Probably not thinking it was safe to stop there and exchange insurance information. But what he does do is stop as quickly as possible afterwards where there is law enforcement to say what happened and to talk about the collision. This is not a winner in court either. By the way, leaving the scene of an accident, 12-point traffic offense, punishable by up to 90 days and I think another $300 fine. Statute of limitations is important here. On those felony charges, actually the upper end charge, on attempt murder, are we unlimited, Clinton, on statute of limitations? But what is it? It's long. It's not your typical 3 years, it's something else. Typical felony like that attempted reckless manslaughter has a 3-year statute of limitations. The misdemeanor's 18 months, traffic 6 months. That's important because as I stand here today asking for the public's help in uncovering any additional evidence in this case, you should know that that time still exists on a decision to not file at this moment.
It is. Correct,
There's
Benjamin.
still time to do this if we get the evidence that can make a difference in this. But as of right now, I don't believe that I have it.
Correct.
That's why I put up that slide there. That's what I have for this presentation, but I'd like to open it up to questions. Anything that you have.
Can't hear the question. I'm shaking.
I'm saying that there are
you guys.
pieces of evidence that are significant, that are missing. Whether or not they would change the ultimate outcome, I can't know for sure, right? I would love it if there was some type of milestone camera or halo camera over that on-ramp to 225 so that we could see the confrontation or know if there was some sort of an exchange of information. I'd love to see that stretch before the collision. Hell, I'd love to see the collision. I don't have any of that. Now, that doesn't mean we could never move forward.
You have body cam footage and still don't prosecute. So really, how would that make a difference?
Try to piece together what was in this driver's head.
Elijah McLean, you had all the body cam footage and still did nothing. I don't understand what kind of video you think you need, sir. Oh, he's only said crazy, Cody. Basically, crazy's only come out of his mouth, nothing else.
So, for instance, once he's struck by
Don't worry about it. Everything you need to see is right there running on the screen. They're not going to charge Sebastian, the driver of the white F-150, but they are not going to charge the Jeep driver either. And they are continuing with their prosecution of Sam the shooter, as they call him. And they just said that the reason is when you show up with a gun to the protest, clearly you're looking for trouble for more than protest. I'm like, so basically you're coming at people for using their First and Second Amendment rights simultaneously. How does presence of a gun?
It's never just what happened, it was what was intended.
I can't even. They clearly don't care.
Not having that video leaves me in a position to have to rely upon a couple witness statements. They're not always consistent.
Yep, he's defended the driver of the Jeep throughout this.
Kind of help me really come up with a conclusion.
Nope, he's not going to do anything other than prosecute Sam. He says he can't possibly do it in court. And considering where he lives, this is Arapahoe County. He ain't wrong. Because Arapahoe County is going to be pulling a jury of peers from Greenwood Village. Remember, they're the ones who said that we want qualified immunity for cops.
Not talking. And the only way I could make him talk was to grant him immunity. Well, I'm not going to do that. I don't know what happened. What am I granting him immunity from? Not going to do that.
From what you guys do.
And by the way,
oh my gosh.
That's in most of the cases that we have. It is infrequent that we get someone, especially after they've obtained counsel, where we ever get the chance to interview.
I asked the same question. They don't care about Tegan's guns at a children's rally. Now he'll probably be reelected. We don't like him, but he is beloved in Greenwood Village.
We started talking about, look, we need to do this.
Think about who lives down there, y'all.
Timing matters, I think.
The type of people who think that this is the system working.
In the country, we didn't want to pile on to other issues.
That
I wanted this to be something.
They appreciate that the DA is in a time of pandemic and economic crisis is not going to be wasting their precious tax dollars on fruitless prosecutions they can't win.
In terms of not publicizing it more, I don't know what our normal practice is, but I imagine this was a matter of us using a secure facility and making sure that we had the logistics.
Yeah, but he'll be replaced by a carbon copy. Who's running in that area? Just saying, this is where elections matter. We are how many days away from re-electing a DA? Who's running in your district? And how are they going to be different than the Democrat Beth McCann? Pretty much all the DAs in our area that haven't prosecuted anybody are all Democrats. I'm just saying, no, I know. I'm saying, here's my point. My husband was like holding this in my face. I'm like, it was a rhetorical question, honey, but I love you. You should be having this. It's soon, y'all. It's like, how many days away are we from the election? That's how soon. You should be getting this blue book in the mail really soon. When you do we need to have a day where we sit down and talk about it? I know this is daunting. I know it is. If you want to do a live stream where I go through the blue book and we talk through some of this, I will gladly do that with you if it gets you to move. Well, you got to remember, it doesn't matter who we put in because it is still a corrupt system. We already got Democrats in there. We need progressives.
I'll be candid with you. I haven't reviewed all the evidence that we have.
And I doubt you have a progressive in Arapahoe County. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a progressive candidate for DA in Arapahoe County, tell me. That's District 18.
Reviewed all of the evidence in detail.
I don't have the Arapahoe County Blue Book, that district's Blue Book, so we'll have to do them separately. But I'll gladly do it. Yeah, I know that's a big book. I'll totally live stream it. Okay. I mean, you have faith in Dems. That's sweet. It's been a while. Been a while. Stop sharing that tab because it looks like they're done. All right. So he has not reviewed all the evidence, and he doesn't care to. What you got to remember that let's back up. All right. So we do not have a justice system, and we never have. We have a legal system that was designed initially to keep the king from throwing anyone who didn't like the king into prison, because that's what used to happen, right? So when these political dissidents came to this country, they wanted to set up theoretically a system that would still allow them to quell riots, but allow them to sort of govern all of these religious fanatics who said, I would rather die at sea than serve the King of England or sit in prison for not serving the King of England. So with that, I'm not defending it. This is what I'm saying. The basis of this system, and the reason it kind of needs to be like torn apart and redone, is that it is really hard to win. You'll hear people in law school say we are a very litigious, overly litigious society. But the fact of the matter is, like, you need money in order to be able to litigate. Like I mean, it is not. If you can, you got the money, go for it. But right now, it is so hard. The bar is so high, and it gets higher every day. It's going to get higher still once we instill another pro-business Supreme Court justice. But we're already headed that way. It's not turning back. So I tell you all that to tell you this. You got to remember when you're watching these things, and it's hard. It's easy to watch this and get really angry. It's hard to watch it and extract the data points that you need that will allow you to act, that will inform your next set of actions. And that is really what I want you to do. We should all have been expecting this from the beginning, and we were. We didn't understand the reasoning for it or the BS that they would use to justify it. But this is Arapahoe County. It is very different from Denver. In many ways, it's wealthier. It's everything you've ever heard about white suburbia, which is, again, not to necessarily denigrate it, but say that people who move there, like the police, they value safety. And it's outnumbered, right? You've got Englewood on one side of the street, and then you've got Cherry Hills Village on the other. These are very divided neighborhoods that have to be serviced. So what he is saying is a foregone conclusion. If this is in Denver, I don't know that we would be able to pressure Beth McCann to do differently because of how powerful DPD is. At the same time, this is why we got to change the city charter. Remember, like, how do we make change? We change the levers of power to give us greater ability to press on anyone sitting in those seats. So this is not the be all end all, but it is a start. When I think about the presidential election, for example, it's easy to go off the deep end, but white people who don't protest like to act like this is a be all end all and Joe Biden's going to save us, and so is Kamala, and that's not true. But at the end of the day, I'm choosing who I want to protest against, and I think a more effective protest would happen meaning we'd be more likely to be heard or get some modicum of concessions from a Biden presidency than I am from yet another Trump presidency. So though I'm someone who loathes Biden and has said that I really have no desire I'm probably going to sit this election out, I'm probably going to vote now. And I don't like that, but I don't like casting a vote for that person. And I'm never going to be excited about it. But I'm going to have to do it now because I do think we can pressure that presidency. I do think progressives have a bit more of a shot. Not that I think they're going to fix everything, but let's be perfectly honest. Y'all didn't notice it, those children in cages when it was happening, when they were sitting in those cages with their parents under the Obama presidency. I've been protesting that stuff since 1998, before DHS existed, before ICE existed. So a lot of what you're seeing now isn't new. It just dovetails with an unpopular president when you don't like him. You're going to cling to everything you don't like about him. And that's okay. That's good and valid. But let's not pretend that these problems are new. He definitely took things and took them to a new level with family separation. That was horrifying. Now, instead of kids in cages with their parents, it's kids in cages without their parents. And that's even more horrific. So I tell you that to tell you this. The more that you can pay attention, even a little bit, to not just the news, but to protesters. If you don't understand an issue, what are you protesting? When you go to an ICE protest, an abolish ICE protest, those guys can tell you in no uncertain terms the history of their movement, exactly what they're protesting. Most of us in Black Lives Matter, we can't give that level of specificity, and most people don't want it anyway. So if we're really going to be progressive and we're really going to push the progressive causes, then we have to understand them well enough to be able to go to the officials that we elect to be able to say, you better do this differently than your predecessor, or you won't have, not only will you not have our support, you're going to hear our voices outside your door for the next 2 years of your term. Does that make sense? So, and I'm not saying that like all Black Lives Matter people are really, really dumb and uneducated, but they do. We just don't understand what they want. They just want to come out here and yell and break things because we don't have clear objectives that are stated at the beginning of every protest. And I know that kind of runs counter to the spirit of a lot of protesting. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of blatant lies, but they were never going to charge them. Amy Patton, again, hopefully she'd be better, but I would push her. All right. So what would you have done different? Understanding how deeply entwined APD is with the mayor's office in general, due to the state, due to the charter. Tell me what you would have done differently, or how you would have maneuvered differently if you had been DA when the Elijah McClain case came before you. Talk to me a little bit about the working relationship that between APD and your office, and how you can do your job well and contest them. Tell me about how you measure and go to, if APD has their own independent authority for excessive force, tell me how your office coordinates with them to monitor that. We've seen firsthand that there is none in Denver, none. They admitted it as much in a live stream that was the day I decided we really needed to start watching the Wednesday city council sessions on safety and housing. And that was why, with today being the exception, because I knew this was going to happen, I've been live streaming those and talking about them, because that's where the most egregious things are said, because no one watches. So that's where they say them. And our city council doesn't necessarily care, other than Candy Sedabaca, and they use a lot of tricks to shut her up. So I wanted a platform where we could listen with what I wanted you to hear, rather than getting lost in the boredom. A platform to highlight the things that Candy Sedabaca wanted to say and that no one else was listening to, like the fact that DPD has their own statisticians keeping records that aren't shared. We just take their word for it. You had 12 officers last year, but only the ones that you thought were prosecutable were brought to the DA's attention, and she declined to prosecute all 3. So somehow we believe there were only 12 cases of excessive force last year that DPD's internal investigators recognized, and 3 that were bad enough to be referred onwards to the DA. That sounds a little small in the city, which ranks 8th in the country in police murders. Something's wrong there. Numbers only matter in context over time, rather than taking them in moment by moment, which is what most people do. So, but from now till next time, my takeaway from this is, yeah, this is always going to happen. Carry on. But the changes we need to see go deeper than we think. They cannot be solved with one vote or with one DA or one judge, but it sure would help to have a progressive in those seats that we could push. So I am going to go try to decompress. I don't have childcare this week, so I'm going to be momming like a boss in the afternoon sessions, and we'll probably not be able to live stream. I only have a little free time in the morning, and I have to spend that working. My entire workday has now been put into a 2-hour block. But I care about this so much that I took part of that 2-hour block just to talk to y'all. I will probably not be streaming this afternoon. The numbers here, again, not to say this isn't the most critical day, but if there was a day to skip, you could skip this one. I'll tell you which days to come back to. The ones that I think are the biggest deal with the most degree worth watching, but we cannot afford to tune out completely. Tune out in the name of self-care. Tune out when you need a mental health break, because knowing all of this will break you. You can't unsee it and you can't unhear it. And that's good. That's how we don't go backwards. At the same time, the revolution needs you. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I coach marathoners. Yay! And we're just going to have to, I'm going to have to coach y'all the same way I do my runners. You're coached, you're loved, you're winning at life. Yes, this is probably not the day to quit smoking. Probably not. You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. It makes it easier to keep doing this work, knowing that anyone at all is paying attention. All right. I will put more comments up, but remember, we don't watch these because we're hoping that it's going to work this time. That's the legal definition of insanity. Doing things over, the same thing over and over, hoping for a different outcome. We knew what the outcome was going to be. We were just looking for more resolve to keep the protests going, and we got it just now. F you, Brauchler. F you. Patton, you want my support? You need to be able to tell me exactly what you would do differently, and that the things you are suggesting are not only possible and plausible, but within your control, not, oh, you're going to get in the seat and then understand that you couldn't do the things that you would wanted to do from the outside. We're going to need better than that now. No playing dumb, no playing ignorant. Once you've won that election, you don't get to make us. I am done with promises that aren't kept. The Democrats have been doing that now for 12 years. We want something new, or we want change, or some people might just burn it down.